Hey.
Hey, office hours, soul of business.
Office hours, soul of business. My mentor, Blaine Bartlett with the Leadership Mindset Mastermind. If you have not gone to learn.blainebartlett.com/LMM, you're missing out. You will not expand, accelerate as fast as you should, because in order to get to where you want to be, you got to find someone like Blaine that's already been there and ask him for directions. So there's my Blaine Bartlett commercial for the day. Thank you for joining me, Blaine.
Yeah, if you're interested in moving possibility into profit, that's the place to go.
Nothing wrong with profit. So Blaine, I love these sessions here for you and I, and we got some guests coming on today, but I thought I'd take a little bit of time just for you and I to discuss, what's on your mind, one of the takeaways for the week that you've learned, or if not, I can bring something up that I'm sure I'm struggling with.
Well, yeah, and I want to hear what your struggle is, but that being said, I want to just plant something here that might be interesting for the audience. I was interviewing actually a guy the other day, Mark Goldstone. He's going to be on my podcast. Dr. Mark Goldstone, brilliant. He's, I won't go into his history. You got to listen to this this podcast. But he mentioned something that I thought was absolutely brilliant, and it had to do with when you're speaking. And most speakers, when they are doing what they're doing, they're paying attention to, are people listening to me? Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? And what he said is, you're missing the mark if that's your attention focus. So what you need to be paying attention to is, what are they listening for?
Wow.
What are they listening for? And it's this, whoa, it's on that point where they kind of lean in and they kind of, you interrupt their pattern, and now something becomes possible. And so I've been playing with that notion. Yeah, what are you listening for? Because that's where the value proposition is. It's not it's not from an egoistic perspective of, are you listening to me? You're paying attention to me, aren't I? Pearls of wisdom landing in your in your lap.
I love that. And one of the things I was thinking of when you're saying is Lou Holtz. I always talk about the great statement that he said that I've used for years. It's not what they hear. It's not what you say. It's what they hear, which is aligned as well with, what are they listening for? Because they're not going to hear you if they're not listening for it. It'll go right back. Well, let me bring up a question for you. And when I jokingly said what's troubling me, I've been pondering different things. I always study time. But one of the other things that, I'm curious about is, why is it that we can sit there and teach the same things to our own companies, our own families, our own children? We think they're hearing it, and yet, it's remarkable to me that for years, we think that maybe, for example, I'll use one that is just puzzling to me, that I can teach 4 things: gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and effective communication or inspiration. And I can have employees for years work for me, and I literally can say, what are the 4 things that I teach? And I'll get a blank face. And that's not just my employees, that's everyone around me, that they will sit there for an hour. I sit to listen to you for an hour and a half. They will tell me, people, that's the most amazing speech I've heard. It was awesome. And then I'll say, oh, really? What's your number one takeaway?
Yeah.
And it's like
crickets.
I want to know about that part of the human mind, body, soul, whatever it is that tells. It's how people make billions of dollars, right? They go to these weekend retreats that change their life, and then you ask them, how did it change? And they're literally the same person. They just somehow got moved during the process.
I'm going to go back to Mark, my conversation with him on this. He had this little epiphany when he was doing some work with Steve Jobs. And he did this one-man show around the country, thinking like Steve Jobs. And he had a little video clip, and it's no more than about a 30-second long video clip. But it's Steve Jobs when he was a young man at Stanford Park, where the mouse was invented, the computer mouse was invented, and he and Woz are standing there, and they're being shown this mouse, And Jobs is kind of the smartest person in the room, and he's going yeah. And all of a sudden, there's this piece where he goes, "Whoa, wow, yes," and it's that migration of whoa, pattern interruption, wow, infatuation, and then it goes to how can I use this? And then yes, so that's what's your takeaway? You're not going to get the takeaway until you go through whoa, wow, whoa, wow, and I just love the little mnemonic on that. Whoa, wow, and if you get whoa, wow, then you can get to yes, and you're off to the races.
That's amazing. What techniques would you use? I'm good on the whoa side, right? To be able to stimulate interest. The wow side, I think, would be the emotional attachment. But I think the engagement occurs, which you and I talk about. The biggest problem in productivity in the world is engagement. I think the means they're thoroughly engaged. Right? We can stimulate interest. We can emotionally attach. What techniques or questions or things that you've learned to get people more engaged? Because I know you have been a consultant for the biggest companies in the world for many, many decades of being able to improve employee engagement is the number one quantitative ROI, in my opinion, to productivity, meaning profit, which is why you're the expert of possibility to profit. What are some of the things that we can use to get people to get to the
Pattern interruption. I'll tell you a real quick story, Dave. I was in a negotiation in Japan, and this goes back probably 25 years ago, maybe even longer, with one of my partners at that point in time. And this was a licensee. He had been selling some of my tape programs at that point. We had translated into Japanese. And we were renegotiating the contract. And we were at loggerheads. Now, I knew this guy really well. He was a good guy. We were actually pretty good friends. But we were just bumping heads. And I couldn't understand for the life of me why he was, wanting some of the stuff, and he couldn't understand for the life of me while I was being so resistant, and we were just back and forth. I remember we were sitting in his office. I was on the guest side of his desk. He was sitting in his chair on his side of the desk, and we were once again kind of going back into this thing. And I forget actually which one of us it was that did this, but one of us said stop, and it was whoop, and he said, or I said, trade chairs with me. Trade chairs. So I got up out of my chair, the one that I was in, and went behind his desk, sat in his chair, and he, turned and sat in the guest chair. And the point was, I want to negotiate from your perspective. I want to sit in your chair physiologically. I want to get in your chair, and I want to get in your head. What are you listening for in this conversation? And he was doing the same in my position. He was listening through my eyes, through my ears. What am I listening for? I'll tell you, it was fascinating. All of a sudden, every request he was making, every objection he was having made perfect sense to me. It was kind of like, well, of course, from his world, how could this not make sense to him? This is what he's listening for. And that interrupt and that shift in perspective, in 30 minutes, we had, 3 or 4 months of, bumping heads, just handled, went out, got a bottle, and went on his boat, and we had a great time. And just kept moving forward.
Two things come to mind from that. One is Thomas Herman's alter ego effect.
Yep.
And so I think as disruption to pattern would be that ego transference of, I'm going to put Tony Gwynn's, baseball card in my pocket next time I go up to bat, and I'm going to take on the ego of Tony Gwynn and relieve all of my fears and interference and resistance. So that's the first thing. So as pattern interruption goes, does the ego and alter ego effect have the same type of use as would switching chairs?
It does, because the ego is invested in being right.
Right.
That's all the ego is. It's not invested in getting what I want. It's invested in being right. And more people would rather be right. Truly, more people on this planet would rather be right about their position or their point of view than get what they say they want. Because It means in order to get what I say I want, sometimes I have to be willing to let go of what I think is right. And that's, in that example that I was sharing, that's exactly what happened for me. I was able to and willing to, there was vulnerability there to let go. And it's all predicated on connecting. I mean, if you're looking at what's the key ingredient for engagement, whether it's employee engagement or engagement with my kids or whatever it might be, it's vulnerability. There has to be an opening where people can come in and connect. Certainty is the absolute death of intimacy.
And one of the other things that came to mind that's so, I think it's a superpower of yours and mine, and people don't understand it. We can separate the role of business, the role of money, the role of interacting to create the abundance, in the, what you called, butting heads for 5 months or whatever. But a lot of people can't separate that from, so once we were done with that activity, we then went off and had a lot of fun on the boat with a bottle of tequila or whatever it was. And you could separate that the same way in business, I can separate, or in my family, I can separate the roles that I'm playing for the betterment of whatever I'm looking for and whatever they may be looking for, using the vernacular that you're talking about. But how do you separate that? Because some people, they can't, rugby. I think, did you play rugby as well, or
Yeah, I played rugby at university.
Yeah, I thought so. So that's the thing that I loved about rugby, because it fit and suited my personality, is that you could, literally play almost to the death and, physically try to, abuse people. And the minute the whistle blew, it was like, let's go get a pint and have a great time.
Yeah.
And everyone left it on the field. How do we do that? Or how do we train people to do that?
An analogy that I think works here, and you'll appreciate this. When you go to the gym, what do you wear?
Gym clothes, right?
Gym clothes. Yeah. When you go to the Unstoppable Gala, as an example, what do you wear? It's not gym clothes.
Tuxedo.
So the roles that I play in my life are like suits of clothes. And where people get in trouble is they get into a position where the clothes are wearing them, and they have trouble because the clothes are wearing them. This is who I am. No, it's not who you are. It's just the suit that you put on today for this particular situation. Be willing to take the suit off. New situations called for. When you're with the girls or something, you're wearing a different suit than when you're with your staff. Now, you come through whichever suit you're wearing. And that's the key to this. You have to be able to have you come through. That's authenticity. The suit that you're wearing is flexible.
And, I think in marriage, it's even the most challenging, right? Yeah. Because we have to wear so many different suits or outfits, but that person, knows us, best in our birthday suit, no puns intended, but, they know the raw you. And so they then look upon you as if maybe you're a hypocrite or a sociopath almost, that's not the real you. No, that's, an outfit that I have on, or, so I think we have a different nuance as well in the intimate relationships that we have, to have them accept the fact that we have to wear different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when I'm in a conversation with Cynthia, there's a time where, do you want me to just be a listener right now? Because my go-to is problem solving. And that sometimes is the worst suit I can put on. Yeah, because that's not what she wants to hear. She doesn't want to interact with a problem solver. She just wants to be heard.
Yeah, right. Or hugged, right? Exactly.
Yeah, or hugged. Yeah. So what suit do I need to wear for that? And not feel like I'm losing me because I had to shift my suit.
I love that. Well, I think our friend is here. Matt, I know Sergeant's here early. What do you want to do? Bring in Sergeant Major? All right, we'll bring in Sergeant Major Keith Craig, the author. You're going to love this. I'm not sure if you know Sergeant Major or not, Blaine. He's going to come back in a minute. But he is a man that basically has written our book. As soon as he comes back.
Serving to Lead. I love the title.
I know. Could it fit us better? And probably a completely different suit of armor the lessons that he teaches. And I can imagine there's so many synergies between what we believe in, what we teach, and the lessons learned along the way, with a completely different experience than both of us have shared, with the same purpose or thoughtful purposes as well. While he comes back, we gave him an early talk about suits. He's putting on his jacket now, so here we go. Let's bring it. Welcome. How are you? Sergeant Major Keith Craig, how are you, sir? Oh.
Yeah, we lost the audio. Okay.
Yeah, that's
flexibility
okay.
Today.
Matt's having a good time. He's definitely enjoying himself. Don's here, so let's bring on Donald. I know we were early with Sergeant Major. All right, we're switching gears here on Office Hours. Donald Miller, CEO, Business Made Simple. Wouldn't that be nice? Author of his new book, Business Made Simple. Before you speak, Donald, welcome to Office Hours, but I gotta say this. Is your book, does it start by saying no employees and no overhead? Because that's the only way I can see it having a simple business.
Yeah, maybe more accurately, Business Made Simpler would be the
true. It's a continuum.
That's right.
Oh my goodness, what a great book. I am just so excited to kind of debunk the myths because I work with so many college students myself, so many entrepreneurs, people just have, it's hard as you get older to have the patience for what people have been told or what they believe. And it's so nice to have the simple truths that are available to help inspire and empower others. What was the motivation for you to come up with, Business Made Simple?
Well, I tell you, I'm the least likely guy to ever write a book about business at all, because I grew up and my dad split when I was a kid. Mom never made more than 20 grand a year. I mean, we stood in line for government cheese. Some of your listeners probably know what that means. And I remember
really yellow cheese.
That's right. It's like a
really yellow.
Big. You could actually build a house with it if you had some concrete. They're just bricks. But I barely got out of high school. Made terrible grades for a number of reasons, including my inability to take responsibility for myself. And my first job was Pies Fried Chicken, then Kmart, then Ruby Chinese Restaurant, where I delivered food for 4 years. Radio Shack. Guy walked into a Radio Shack, and I'd known his son, and he said, why don't you stop selling batteries and sell books? I've got a publishing company. You can come help me sell books. He didn't ask me about a degree or anything because I didn't have one. I went over and joined him. This was in my early 20s. And 4 years later, I was president of the publishing company, and we became the fastest growing company in our little sector. And I discovered a lot of things. One is I was actually not dumb. I really thought I was dumb because my grades told me I was dumb. And I fell in love with publishing. I fell in love with business. I ended up writing a book that didn't sell very many copies. And then the publisher, the owner of the company, sold the company. So I started a company. And while I was getting that going, I wrote another book, a memoir, and that book spent 42 weeks on the New York Times bestsellers list. So everything changed when I was about 29. And I kept writing books, had a really successful career, started a conference company, developed a marketing framework for my company. Accenture heard about it, asked me to write a project management, some curriculum. And I ended up writing a book called Building a Story Brand, a business book about how to clarify your message and do marketing that actually works, because I think most people waste enormous amounts of money on marketing. That blew up. Ended up with a $10 million company. That means I had to understand how to run my finances. I had to understand management execution, had to understand sales, had to understand all the different parts of a company. And ended up with about a $20 million company with no private equity, no venture capital, 64% profit margin, no debt. And then quickly discovered nobody else had done that. And I hired a Harvard business grad to come help me run my company because I thought I was stupid. I thought, this is just an accident. He decreased our revenue by 20%, increased our overhead by 30%. So I started going, wait a second, maybe I'm not dumb. I just don't know. Here's my problem. I don't know how to sound smart. I just know how to be smart. I don't know how to make a business look successful. I really don't. But I know how to make a business actually be successful. business has a scoreboard. It's called the owner's checking account. And let's compare, right? How you doing? So to me, that's what this book is. It's a book for the blue collar business professional, who thinks that college might not be the best investment, but they need to learn some practical skills that will actually make themselves or their employer a lot of money. And I used a micro learning technique where there's 60 daily entries. You get a video all 60 days, and it takes you through what I call the skills of a value-driven professional. And what I mean by a value-driven professional is a professional who is an extremely good investment. That if you give them a paycheck, they're going to get you a 10x, 5x, 10x return on that investment every time. And that person will never, ever hunger for job security. So, I'm the least likely guy to be a business coach, but at the same time, I'm not totally sold on most of the ways people are coached to do business. I think it's actually pretty darn simple. Not that it's easy, but I think it's pretty darn simple. And there's a lot of people out there trying to sound smart who actually aren't very good at business. You can know a lot about basketball and not be able to sink a free throw. And I think that's where there's a lot of businesses out there, and that's where they are.
Yeah. You talk about something in the book called the hidden staircase. Unbundle that a little bit, because I'm fascinated by how you've, number one, came to recognize it. Number two, how you actually talk about it or teach it.
Well, that's when I look back, the only thing that a college degree will get you as it relates to business. We're not talking about nursing or law school or any of that, but as it relates to business, I think that a college degree can get you an interview, and that's it. Yeah. Everything else, and it's not because college is bad. It's because there's two reasons. One, they're teaching a lot of stuff you never need to know. You don't need to read a white paper on trade with China, unless you're going to be chairman of the Fed. Then you're going to need to know that. You're going to need to know it about 50 years later. So, and then there's also the timing is off. These kids who are in business school, they're not doing business, and so they don't need the information right now. So I'm not convinced that $150,000 in debt is worth it to go get an interview. And luckily, thankfully, corporations are starting to realize that, and they're not requiring. They're looking at experience more than they're looking at your degree, and I think that's a good thing. But we think that's the ladder. That's how you get on the ladder. And if you didn't get a degree, then you can't get on the ladder. But apparently, I found a hidden staircase, and I'd like to show a lot more people where it is. And here's the other thing: if you did get a degree and you got an interview and you're into the company, now you have to actually figure out how to climb the ladder, because you don't remember any of that. And so my book teaches you how to do that.
Don, you make such a great point. I deal a lot in the VC world, venture world, and I'm blessed to be around a ton of Ivy League, including within the context of my family, academics that had a huge leg up on me when they were applying for jobs and even getting the entry-level positions. I think people that have systematic, including the company that hired you, Accenture, that have systematic recruiting systems according to, those criteria. It was interesting. I was in a deal with a lot of Ivy Leaguers, and they were talking about investment. And I brought up a point. I said, nobody brought up timing or risk tolerance. Yeah. I said, there's a lot of analysis here. I see trends in the market. I see all types of things, but nobody asks the client, the person who's going to give the money, millions of dollars, by the way, what is your timing and risk tolerance, and align what you guys are talking about, which, coming from my background, I had a hard time understanding all of it, but they sure seemed smart to me. And they were blown away when I asked a very basic, simple question. It reminds me what you do, because I was always the hypocrite in law school and business school. I was always the one that said, the real value of being here are the people that are around me and the connections that they have.
I would say that's the biggest benefit. Not that there aren't benefits to business school. There are.
No, there are, but it was interesting because I went to a tiny college, and, being where I am today, I joke around here in Orange County because I went to Occidental College with 1,500 students.
I know that's cool. Yeah.
For one reason, because they would let me play football. But if I knew the value of, the USC alumni board, or, some of these other schools where literally I could have worked the room for 4 years, and the parents in the room as well. And instead of having to really fight for the first $2 million of investment that I asked for, just been handed my friend's dad's checkbook to say, oh, we like this kid, let's give him a shot.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you see within the context of academia versus the School of Hard Knocks that are complementary to each other, where you see that their experiences mirror or are contributing to equal success? Nobody talks about the similarities between the two.
Well, I think 90% of business, I'm going to grab a book here, but 90% of business really is relational. So when you're talking about those networks and, they can be invaluable. Now, college is not the only place you can build relationships. Especially today, there are all sorts of coaching platforms, entrepreneur organizations. It's all sorts of ways you can build relationships. The problem is in the identity of the person who didn't actually go to college because they think they're inferior, which may or may not be the case academically or intellectually. We don't know that, but I would say that's not the teller. That's part of it. And then I would say, one of the things that because I did, attend some classes. One of the things that I think is huge is just, your ability to read and absorb data and information and learn, even more perhaps than learning about business. Switching your brain so you're learning and taking responsibility for your own growth. You can get that jump started in college like nowhere else, but then you've got to keep it for the rest of your life. You literally can't stop, and so I think those two are advantages. But Vanderbilt University studied my business. Their MBA program, executive MBA program, studied my business, and they came back to me and they said, Don, we got a lot here. We think you should go to Singapore. We think you should do this, think you should that. There's one thing that you're betting the farm on. You're betting the farm on $10,000 that somebody will pay $10,000 to get certified as one of your marketing. We call them marketing guides. They're basically marketing freelancers who we certify to do marketing our way because we think our way is better, and it is better. And they said, we've done. Here, let me show you the data and the research. We've done this. It's not going to work. And we really are, they expected me to say, you guys, thanks. You just saved my butt. And I said, yeah, I got bad news for you. I said, we launched it. We launched it 3 months ago. And they were like, oh, Don, I'm sorry. I go, I'm not sorry. We had 83 people signed up, $830,000. It's about $700,000 profit. Feeling really good about it. There's a waiting list to get in. My problem is I'm paying sales reps to pick up the phone, write down somebody's name, and then they're getting 5% commission. That's my problem. Do you tell me to deal with that problem? and so it's it's just hilarious, problem. Right? So sometimes you can.
Good problem. I always tell if I'm overpaying my sales reps, I got my business rocking and rolling. That's a good problem.
That's a great problem. Yeah, no, I like these guys, but I'm not going to stop kicking them in the balls. But I like them anyway. So that it's that sort of thing. So I think that ability to, there's due diligence, and that's really good. But then there's just basic street smarts of, if somebody pays me 10 grand, I know I can make them $100,000, and that's a $90,000 profit for them. I know I can give them $100,000 business in a box, and we did. In fact, some of our people paid $10,000. They made close to $1 million in their first year. It's a $990,000 profit. That's going to work every single time. Yeah, and now we've got, this is years later, now we've got 800 of them, and they're paying year after year after year residual income every year to stay in the program. And so I think I'm not exactly sure if I've got a chip on my shoulder or what, but then that actual marketing framework is now taught in the Vanderbilt MBA program. Their whole marketing division is ours. It's just, we just gave it to them. So teach this. And they've been a wonderful partner. So I'm not throwing them under the bus, but it's hard for me to say. I think if my daughter came to me one day and said, Dad, you didn't go to college. I'm not going to college. I'm actually going to sit her down and say, hold on. Mm-hmm. Dad got really lucky. And what do you want to do? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be, if you want to be even a writer, there's some liberal arts programs. Now the question is it worth $250,000? Because if you're going to be a teacher and you're getting out of school with a master's in teaching and you got $150,000 in debt, you will never, ever pay off that debt. and you do come from a successful family, so you have some privilege there. But another student, they're not going to be able to get a home for an extra 10 years. That means they're not putting equity in their home. And I don't know if you've noticed, but home prices used to be 3.5 times the average annual income. Now they're 10 and 12 and 14 times. So capital or equity in your home is no longer a good investment. So, I think there's three things that are kicking us in the shin, the balls, and then the head. The first thing is college debt. The second thing is you're late buying a home. And then the third thing is the medical coverage that you're going to need later in life is going to kill you. And so the average middle-class family has lost $10,000 adjusted for inflation since Richard Nixon. Now, that's a problem for them, but here's the big problem. They can't afford to go to banks and get a loan. And so now capital is going to collapse. And so we have got, and I love that the paywall that is separating from the rich and the poor begins at a lot of places, but one of the big places it exists is in the university system. And so we see University of Pittsburgh, I believe it is, with their Outliers program. You see this being disrupted. Amazon is saying, we no longer require a bachelor's degree. We'll educate you here. Google is saying, we can give you in 6 months and for 1/10 the price, a certificate. And you've been educated at Google. You'll know practically how to make money. So universities are rightly scrambling to figure out a more practical way to educate the public. And that's going to be a great thing, because now you've got so many labor workers who used to not be able to afford any capital at all, who may be able to get better high-paying jobs and start putting maybe money into the market, money into their 401k, and stimulate the economy. So there's some good things happening, and I'm proud of the fact that I get to appreciate it. Now, I know your listeners saying this guy's got a chip on his shoulder. I do, but that chip has been a very powerful force to help me succeed, right? I'm still the guy saying, yeah, I was standing in line 2 minutes ago for government cheese, but look, I got money now, right? I'm still that guy.
Been there.
So,
Yeah.
Well, Don, thank you so much. I think the whole world will take people like Blaine, myself, and you, as we have a blend of these kids that go to institutions for the socialization, the networking, but they bring in professors like us that are far less expensive and virtually can appear on a humongous screen with a TA
and give practical knowledge with real life examples. I mean, you guys are the opposite of an ivory tower.
Yeah, I'll teach a course called Dummy Tax, and they'll love it. So
I need to take that course. You tell me where to sign up. I pay a lot of dummy tax.
Sorry, everybody in the wait, man. I'm scared to make him wait, man. You got a master sergeant, sitting sergeant major back there. He's probably like, that's 3 minutes. Okay, come on here. Let's get this thing going. All right.
Oh yeah. No, I'll get off.
You're awesome.
But I do want to know about that dummy tax course. Will you let me know? Because that sounds good.
Hey, get a PhD.
businessmadesimplebook.com. Check out Donald Miller. He is a best-selling author and just a real blessing to have here on Office Hours. Thank you for your perspective and the chip on your shoulder. I love it.
Thanks for your grace, guys. Appreciate you.
You bet, Don. Great to have you on the show.
Bye now.
Thank you. I wanted him to stay, but I'm sitting there looking at Sergeant Major, and I'm like, this guy is right up my alley as well. So Sergeant Major Keith Craig is here, all suited up, ready to go. First of all, Sergeant Major, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your service. And thank you for your book. I don't know if you know your history about these two guys right here, Blaine and I, but anybody that writes a book called Serving to Lead is right in our wheelhouse. They understand why we're serving a bigger power and a bigger source. So thank you so much for coming on. Can't wait to hear about your book, Serving to Lead.
No, I appreciate. Thank you for having me, David. You and Vernon. Thank you.
Of course. Well, I'm going to ask a quick question. So I think a true leader is an intelligent follower. And part of being an intelligent follower is understanding how much service and value we can provide to others to give our lives away. I think you, coming from the background that I have read, definitely understand what being of service means to you. How can we incorporate that, as you have talked about, lessons in adversary resilience for the battlefield, gridiron, but now apply it to the corporate world?
Great question. It's important for me to based on, being in the military 32 years and serving, going to 6 combat tours, being a peacekeeping mission, humanitarian mission in Bosnia and Haiti, and going to Afghanistan, Iraq. And one of the things I want to point out as I transitioned from the military, also professional football as well. And also I went to Hollywood and became a film distributor. So the thing I wanted to do was, in the military, we have different priorities. It's mission, my soldiers, and then myself. And one of the things I noticed in corporate America was myself, the mission, and not necessarily the people that is employed by you. So I thought it was very important that differences in the two different spaces, if you will, because I think it's very important. People always ask me, how do you get soldiers to run toward danger? Run toward the enemy when they're firing at you, shooting at you. Well, because you have loyalty, because you've trained with them, you've cried with them, you've shed blood with them, so on and so forth. And so they understand that you care about their livelihood. Unlike corporate America, I think there's some challenges there to where it's harder, because no one ever taught most of the people in corporate America that your leadership or your position that you get, your high paying wages, is not necessarily about you, it's about your people and the mission itself. So that's why I thought it was important to write my book, Serving the Lead, because to understand the importance of being a servant leader. That's very important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if I call you Keith?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just want to check the protocol here.
Right.
The Dalai Lama at one point in time was talking about trust, and he said there's 3 basic cornerstones to trust. And I thought of this as you were talking about leading men into battle. Intent. Do you have my well-being in mind? Even though we're running into battle, do you have my well-being in mind? And so the training takes place with in agenda that addresses some of that. Agenda. Whose agenda is being served here? And then behavior. Do you walk the talk? And if you've got those 3 things lined up fairly well, you've got a pretty solid foundation in which you can actually lead, because that foundation is predicated on, with those 3 things. Trust. Basically, they trust. Yeah, they may not know exactly where they're what they're getting into, but they trust that the leader has got their back. Is that a pretty accurate summation of your take on how effective leaders, can actually make things happen in really uncertain times?
Blaine, you're spot on, actually. I mean, from the time that we train the exercise and train up, which is about 12 months in advance, we have that final party where we invite the mothers and the wives and the kids. Comes to something called Organization Day, and everybody as a sergeant major and as the commander is like, hey, make sure you bring my people back safe. So yes. We have to look them in the eye and say, yes, we have trained well. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that we can't give them the commitment that they want us to give, but understanding that we have trust from the entire family, from the grandfather all the way up to the 2-year-old child, right, or the unborn child. So you're spot on with that analogy, because we go into battlefield and it's all about trust. It's all that the training went through trust. So yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. Keith, I have a couple questions. One is a trivia question. I want to ask you, do you know who the backup quarterback in Houston of Warren Moon was for the Houston Oilers?
Absolutely. Oliver Luck.
Yeah, your general manager in Frankfurt for the Europe NFL. You nailed it. Yeah, Oliver played behind Warren. And every time I see his name, I remember, oh, God, what a great guy. And obviously his son, even better. Moreover, you're an entertainment executive as well. And you run and head the diversity resource group called Salute. So I was wondering about the Oscars this year, 2021, and the Black excellence in film. Obviously, there's been some challenges and disruptions within the Oscars and the Academy for proper representation of the great talents in all areas of film, and wondered what your perspective for the Oscars this year is going to be with the Black excellence in film.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Golden Globe pretty much sets the the pattern, if you will, every year because it's the first award show of the year. And I saw a lot of emphasis played on that. Although out of the 57 voters internationally that for the Golden Globe, people, the number of the media people of color. However, I've seen a very intentional, if you will, move to where the first two winners of the evening were African American people. Yeah. And I also saw some diversity with the for the first time in the history, female director was nominated for award with the Golden Globes being the leader of the year. I see the Oscars pretty much following suit, if you will, because it's with Black Lives Matter out there now, and different things that have happened throughout this year. I see a pivot. A pivot must happen before it happens, as you know. So I see a gentle, slight pivot happening to where inclusion, diversity is a part of everybody's program.
Can I ask you one more question? And I take a humble approach. I've spent a lot of my life representing the Clemente family, Warren Moon, Jackie Robinson, put the statue up. But one of the things that I don't know how to reconcile is what do we do with historically racist content? The thing with Dr. Seuss just came out, and we have historically separate content that doesn't portray what we believe today or what we want to believe tomorrow. What should we do with the content that is not up to snuff with what our standards are today? What should we do with that content?
I think we have to somehow acknowledge that the content is there, and probably take it out of distribution, if you will. But there's a whole conversation going right now about cancel culture and things of that nature. So I think communicating, conversation has to happen on both sides, and understand that the intention isn't to get rid of per se particular whatever. It's to just alleviate wording or verbiage that doesn't fit the current place that we're in now, as a country, as a nation.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Blaine.
No, that's fine.
No,
I can hear myself
just think
talk
a lot
all the
of a lot of us just we just follow suit, right? We don't even know why we're doing what we're doing. I have this philosophy that 87% of the world are followers, and 30% are actually leaders. So, but that 87%, you do have CEOs, EVPs, SVP. You have people that are or make major money, major titles, in this world of ours. However, if that 13% just conscientious effort to lead the 87%ers out of the darkness into the new age or the new world order, if you will, we'll get somewhere.
Like that.
That's awesome. Thank you for handling those tough questions too. And we want to have you back, Keith. I want to talk more about servant leadership, compassionate capitalism, collaboration, and commandments that are all relative. And I appreciate everyone having the patience with our connectivity. And I put up your website where people can find you. Anywhere else, I know we have serving2lead.life. Anywhere else people can find you?
Sure. The official Keith L. Craig on Instagram, and so Keith.
And we will post those all up in the notes as well, my friend. Thank you so much for all your service all over the place, and especially what you're leading today as a true icon. And it's so nice to have you on, and can't wait to get together in person and share some football stories. You and I have shared a lot of friends, so I can't wait to talk about that.
And by the way, I love the jacket.
I look forward to that meeting. I look forward to meeting you guys.
You come back and visit us again.
It. I had to get ready for David,
I know. I got one that looks just like it. Yes, I love that color.
He looks good. Thank you so much. Take care. Awesome.
That's
Oh,
so
what a
good.
great guy.
Good guy.
I want to point this out because, this show is a digital show and it's not perfect. And you and I both have had, perfect productions, and there's an entertainment executive from Disney, and the patience and understanding that he has with the technology that has been created today. I was sitting there and it's, a little bit choppy, but there's such good content. I just had to let it go because I learned so much. And it's just nice when people are willing to field tough questions and give such great answers that can help us all, and just a true leader. So anyway, we have our friend Victor here to ask us some questions. He is the co-founder of Justpoint, justpoint.com, an AI company. And Justin, why don't you give a quick background to Blaine and I on the company and what question you have for us?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for having me. Great show.
Thank you.
My question is on marketing, but first let me explain what we do so you have the context. So we use artificial intelligence to understand which are the best lawyers, especially in the context right now of medical malpractice, because we know it's a space that when we had to choose between all spaces of law, we realized that medical malpractice is the one that has maybe the least credibility right now. And when people suffer a problem, a mistake, they have to choose an attorney and they don't know who to go to. So we connect claimants to the best possible attorney for their case. And the question is exactly on marketing. That's why I wanted to be on the show. So it's we are spending more and more marketing. We see the more money we spend, the more people see us and the more clients we have. But I'm trying to look for strategies to be more sustainable and not have to invest so much money and have to have that correlation between I have to spend twice to have twice as many people. And I've been leaning towards trying to build the brand. But I would love to hear your thoughts and advice on this matter.
Well, luckily for you, you're sitting in a sweet spot of mine, starting my career in technology and law. I don't know if you know this, but I was one of the first 4 people selling Westlaw. Yeah, out of law school myself. And I actually have some clients to introduce you to with a Just Law, which would be a complementary business to you. And that goes along with the recommendation that I have for you. This is about community. And the community that you want to build is built off of the credibility of your AI to match the best lawyers according to what the critical law issues or critical business issues that have legal issues in them would be. So credibility is a huge issue for you. But where you'll build your community is not around that credibility, because just like in an election, with the technology we have today, as you know, credibility can be changed. It can be built around a story. It can be, sent out. So I'm a big fan of, promoting credibility and integrity, but understanding the other aspect, which is the emotional aspect of the community. And because you're looking at a very emotional relationship, one between a claimant and their lawyer, it's very emotional. I would look to build on that emotion and look for people in that position that have the emotional attachment in order to build your community. So look at the emotional issues that are caused by these claims and look and see what groups that have these emotional issues. You'll find claimants everywhere because litigious society that we live in and what occurs. But I think you will take a unique approach by looking and attaching and spending your dollars to create what you want, this vending machine that you could spend half as much money advertising into a group or a community of people that nobody else is addressing. And the reason it's so expensive to get your business is that every lawyer is addressing the market the exact same way you are, claiming not through AI, but claiming through their reputation and their region and their law school and whatever it is. They're playing the credibility game. You beat them with an emotional community game, and you will find that you'll get 10, 20 times if you get to those issues, lookalike audiences on those issues, community building, your marketing and branding efforts will have exponential results. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, sounds fair. And I'm curious if you can give an example of a community building.
Sure. So loss of consortium. that's a claim that would be made, and it has an emotional aspect that people cannot be intimate, or there's a lot of people that have depression or anxiety. Both are claims that we make. There's the emotional loss of a physical capability in a disability case. These are specific emotional things that occur that are actually the driving forces of why people make a claim, instead of when they're already making a claim to find the best lawyer to handle the claim. So I think addressing those audiences and the emotional aspect that's related to the claims are going to be a much more profitable and exponentially greater return for you.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for
And
the
I
thoughts.
want to just kind of put a little cap on that. The emotional piece is actually what you're looking at. Yeah, the credibility is based on emotional connection. I mean, it truly is. And David and I were talking at the very beginning of the show today about listening to or listening for. And the clients that you're going to be served are not going to be attracted by the features, the AI feature of your service. They're going to be attracted, and they're going to be listening for, how does this handle the pain that I feel? And it's the emotional pain. It's not necessarily the pain of loss of a function, or perhaps even the loss of a loved one. It's the personal and a very specifically and uniquely personal pain that I'm feeling. How is this going to address that? And so, kind of the narrative will be niche specific, and it organizes back to the service that you offer. We're going to take care of your heart. We're going to take care of your heart. I mean, that's essentially what we're promising you. We're going to take care of your heart. We're not going to make things whole, but we're going to take care of your heart. And that's the kind of the conversation that you begin to organize around. And it's, particularly in the medical field, it is such a personalized, and I hate to use the word industry here, but it is an industry in this country. It's such a personalized industry that if you can make what you're doing highly personal, you're going to be hitting a home run. Yeah, I have no doubt about that. And you might want to pick up Don Miller's book, Make Business Simple.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, like to so more about like what we do, not about how we do it.
Yeah.
And I love listening for what is making them feel that way. Is a great way to put it as well. Victor, thank you so much. Everybody should check out Justpoint. I do have an introduction, so email me at david@dmeltzer.com that I think some people can help you as well. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. Woo. I love Thursdays. I just have to tell you, I love you and I love Thursdays.
Yeah. I'd love to. I mean, the only thing missing is a fireplace and a glass of tequila.
Yeah, and some ice for me.
Yeah, it's. I mean, these conversations weekly, I miss them. I do personally. This is a great substitute. Yeah. So takeaways.
Takeaway for the day.
I'm going to mark out patience today. Not that we talked about patience, but just the way that the show kind of evolved. I think that there was grace under pressure, grace when things went sideways, and it's all predicated on patience. Yeah, this is going to work out. It always works out. It has never not worked out. Yeah. I'm gonna come out the backside of my life having it been worked out. So I just have to have patience, and that there's a sense of equanimity. There's a sense of, and I use the word grace. There's a sense of just kind of grace. When I can move into be patient, grasshopper. Just be patient.
Well, I know Matt, who's our producer, and he is up early in the morning sometimes with us, and he does. He lives by what I teach is always do your best, learn something, and have fun. I know he's very grateful that you didn't say the lesson or takeaway for the day is fire fast. So he likes that patience and forgiveness attitudes much better, and so do I, and we live by that as well. My takeaway through all that we went through today, just logistically, I'm going into the content side of it, and it's serving, without expectation. here you have the sergeant major who has overcome so much, and his whole life all he's tried to do was serve his country or serve his own people. And then Don, he's of service, and everyone plays with that chip on their shoulder. I love that takeaway that everyone has a chip on their shoulder. We have a need to be offended. I deal with it all the time, and how to use the chip on your shoulder for good. Any African-American executive has to have a chip on his shoulder.
Absolutely.
One of the things I always admired about Warren Moon, my business partner, was that he had every right after death threats and having to play football in Canada to have a huge chip on his shoulder. And those people that can use it for the positive aspects, but not let it destroy them. Tom Brady has a chip on his shoulder. And I am someone that identifies with that I've lived, with a chip on my shoulder, and I think it's okay if you use it in a positive way. And so everyone, whether it's Victor or Donald or Keith, I appreciate the chip that you have and that you've able to transform that energy to prove people wrong and to help people prove themselves right. And I appreciate your chip for coming on here to prove me wrong.
Yeah. As our friend Les Brown says, you got to be hungry.
Hungry. Well, Les Brown, speaking of which, tomorrow morning, I'm on Clubhouse now at 5 a.m. tomorrow because I gave up my 6 a.m. spot for the Hungry Hunter. Les Brown's going to be bringing it at the Breakfast of Champions at 6 a.m. I'll be on at 5 a.m. Pacific time. So join me, have a little pre-game warm-up with a mentee of Blaine Bartlett and Les Brown. And I will tell you, Blaine and I are in a show called World's Greatest Motivators, and I've been getting a lot of interest working on that show recently because of my other shows. So we may just reappear on the network, you and I and Cynthia and Les Brown and Jack Canfield and Bob Proctor and Mary Morrissey and Lisa Nichols, to name of John Asseroff, Sugar Ray Leonard, who I was with 2 days ago, Sugar Ray.
Yeah,
so keep your eyes out for the World's Greatest Motivators that premiered on WGN. It's going to make another comeback. Just stay tuned. That's all I got to say. Thank you, Blaine, so much. Give Cynthia a kiss for me. I will talk to you soon.
Okay, buddy. Looking forward to seeing you when I get back down to LA.
I can't wait. There we go.
Out of here.
Blaine's one of those 8%ers, man. He's been vaccinated. He's ready to see Uncle David. That's awesome. Anyway, everyone, it's david@dmeltzer.com. Shipmeyyourbook.com if you want a free book, signed, shipped, and paid for. Shipmeyyourbook.com. It's simple. Google me, David Meltzer, David@dmeltzer. Training tomorrow, Clubhouse tomorrow, David@dmeltzer. 5 a.m. Clubhouse, 6 a.m. Clubhouse, 11 a.m. training. Download the playbook, share it, love it. The playbook, one of the top podcasts in the world now. We have been blessed. That's all I got to say. If you haven't checked out the playbook, check out the playbook. Most importantly, Matt, thank you so much for putting up with us again. And everyone else, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks. Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Dave Meltzer, author, speaker, entrepreneur. Office Hours is a show with entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. And we're going to dive deep into the mindset of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, how to start, how to scale, and how to exit. We're going to talk to the celebrities, the athletes, the entertainers, the billionaires, all who want to be or are entrepreneurs. And we're going to find out what it takes to have that desire that you must be what you can be, to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. And we're going to get inside the mindset of the entrepreneur.
You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together.
We can handle hard, but it's long that bothers us. I really encourage every entrepreneur to think hard and smart, but I really give a lot of weight to an entrepreneur that works long.
I don't want to be exclusive. I don't want to create a product that's only for one person. I want it to be for everyone.
I think the beauty of a values-based approach to business is that it sets a compass in place that you can follow, whether you're dealing with a COVID, a pandemic, an economy, social unrest, or a roaring economy.
The best investment you have to make is to bet on yourself. And that's exactly what you're saying. And that's emotionally, that could be monetarily, that could be time. There's so many different, that could be giving.
The one consistent thing about them and everybody here is that just like every good house, they've got a strong foundation of core values and work ethic, right? Every last one of them spoke about the things that shaped them, and they still implement those things no matter when they jump from here to here to here, they're still doing the same things that got them to the first place.
I still remember when we bought YouTube, and it seemed like we're going to pay billions of dollars for this company that has no revenue and not even a plan to get revenue. But now it's a key part of the Alphabet strategy.
Right, a rising tide lifts all ships, and that's what's happening here. You create that elevated frequency, that elevated energy that everyone benefits from.
If you appreciate what we all are the same, it allows us to appreciate how different we are. And I say appreciate the differences. And I think that separation that exists today is something that we all need to work on, because together we'll go far. Come join me inside the greatest minds of entrepreneurship here on Office Hours.